Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order Nevadabuck Nailed It edition. This is maybe the biggest story in the history of the Big Ten. The University of Southern California is joining the Big Ten. That is something that Nevadabuck has been talking about for almost a year now. We've done multiple podcasts on it. 2 months ago, he basically said it was confirmed. It all came to a head today, and by this evening, the schools, along with UCLA, publicly announced they're joining the Big Ten in 2024, which will be here before you know it. Just absolutely insane. So we're going to get to this. This is going to be, we're going to get right to the good stuff. So real quick, as always, thank you guys so much. Our podcasts are absolutely going bananas right now. It's generally a slow time of the year, but on the Scoop, there's never a downtime. There's never a downturn. We're always cranking content. We're cranking inside information. Thank you guys so much for supporting this channel, for supporting the Scoop World Order, and supporting OSU Insider. We're really working hard, so thank you. If you enjoy this, please leave a like and comment on who do you want added to the Big Ten next. Is it Notre Dame, North Carolina? Is it Washington, Oregon? Colorado? Is it some other obscure school? It's insanity right now, but we're going to get right to the man of the day, Mr. Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you tonight?
Oh, doing good. This has been a great day. It's, really, I didn't expect it all to come down quite this quick, but the old saying that how did it happen? It was slowly at first, then all at once, but it kind of all came all at once today, and that was a lot of fun.
Well, we've done multiple podcasts on this dating back to last year, talking about expansion and the move to super conferences, the move to an NFL style of college football in terms of AFC, NFC type conferences that don't really have a geographic connotation, such as how the LA Rams are in the NFC, the LA Chargers are in the AFC. They're both in Los Angeles. Like, that's kind of what it feels like college football is getting ready to go to. But you nailed this one, bud. There was nobody that had this before you did. You've had some really high-ranking sources on this one. You've been not even hinting at it, predicting that it was going to happen. So your thoughts today, I know it was a big travel day for you, when you found out that USC was officially joining the Big Ten today.
Well, I was surprised that UCLA came along with them. I think the conversations initially had been that USC would be paired with another packed school, and it probably wasn't going to be UCLA. I didn't see that happening, and I think what's happened is Fox really stepped in and is really pushing the brand concept, and really they made a presentation where they talked about how the NFL has multiple teams in large markets, multiple teams in the LA market, as you mentioned, the Rams and the Chargers, and in the New York market with the Giants and the Jets, and how that's actually good, and that actually grows the business. And I think that kind of carried the day with the Big when they started considering UCLA as a viable candidate, because USC and UCLA have always been joined at the hip, despite the fact that one's a public school and one's a private school and one's part of the UC system and one's not. But like I said, the USC thing, I knew that was happening. UCLA was a little bit of a surprise to me, but a very pleasant one. And I think it's what we're seeing is the death knells of the Pac. The Pac-12 is dead. They just don't know it yet, but it's done. It's just everybody's running for lifeboats right now, and the Big Ten is one of them.
Yeah, it's the the Pac-10 is basically the iceberg, and they just hit the big. They're the Titanic, and the Big Ten's the iceberg, and it's not going to be pretty. There's going to be schools that are going to be trying to find a home, trying to stay relevant, and I think that USC and UCLA, they did what was in the best interests of their universities. Give me. You mentioned that this might be the biggest day in the history of the Big Ten. Give me some perspective on what it means for the University of Southern California, the flagship of the West, to join the Big Ten.
I mean, it's seismic. I mean, it's just incredibly seismic. I mean, when you talk about the SEC when they landed Texas and Oklahoma, and people were talking about that as the master stroke, and you thought about like what was the only thing that could trump that? What would be the only thing that could be a bigger move from that, and that would be to take USC and UCLA, and the Big Ten did it. The Big Ten now is the nation. They go coast to coast. They go from the Pacific to the Atlantic. The Big Ten football is going to be on from first thing in the morning to last thing in the evening, which is just crazy to think about. And I think it's a wonderful day for all fans of Big Ten football. I think it's a perfect match with the history of the Rose Bowl and the classic matchups between Pac-10 and Big Ten schools. It's just like I said, it's perfect symmetry, and I couldn't be more excited about the future.
Yeah, I don't even have words to speak how excited I am that the University of Southern California is joining the Big Ten. UCLA is a nice throw-in, but USC is they're the A-lister. They're the A-list celebrity. They're the hot ticket. When they come to town to the Horseshoe, or when Ohio State goes out to the Coliseum, or Michigan goes out to the Coliseum, or Wisconsin goes, I mean, that will be the hottest ticket of the year for whoever plays them. And it's just going to be fascinating. I think that people, they look for a reason to go out and visit Los Angeles, and now you're literally going to get to go there almost every year, every other year, based on however they reconfigure the conference schedules. But I'm just excited. I think that we're getting closer to the NFL model, which we're going to talk about next. So obviously, the elephant in the room at this point, as I give it away with my photo, is who are the next dominoes to fall. Obviously, there's one huge domino that is out there and likely in play now. Tell us a little bit about what you know and what you can anticipate as the potential next moves for the Big Ten in conference expansion.
Well, I think they've got a couple of plays. They've got kind of the regional play, which is to take a couple of more PAC schools, two, maybe as many as four, and those two targets would be Oregon and Washington, and then keep an eye on schools like Colorado, Utah, Arizona. All AAU members, Research One institutions. They all fit really well with what the Big Ten is looking to do. And then you've got Notre Dame. I mean, the USC thing at the USC, Notre Dame's got a long history of those USC Notre Dame games, and that's been one of the most natural rivals, one of the biggest game on their schedule every year. And now USC is part of the Big Ten, and I cannot emphasize enough, how enormous that is for anybody who would dream of Notre Dame moving to the Big Ten. I know people, on the Ohio State board, like, we don't want Notre Dame. Well, I want Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the last big dog out there, and what a coup that would be. I think they're being driven to have to join one of these super conferences. Geographically, it makes sense. Academically, it makes sense. Even though they're not an AAU member, they've got an excellent academic reputation, and I just think they check so many boxes, and I think that they are absolutely positively in play, and I think that's something that can happen sooner than later.
Yeah, and for people that aren't familiar, tell us a little bit about the academic profile that's so important to the Big Ten as they consider members. Because some people are like, well, why can't we go get Clemson? Why can't we go get Florida State? Get some, talk a little bit about the academic profile and why that is so important to the Big Ten as they consider expansion. It's not just about how good's the football team. Like, talk a little bit about the conference standard for academics.
Well, I think you could look. There's a thing called the AAU, American Association of Universities, where you go there and you look at the list of those universities. Those are Research One facilities, ones that have met certain academic standards, a very rigorous set of academic and research standards that only, I think there's like 70 schools that qualify for that across the country. And if you're not an AAU member, it's going to be hard to be considered for Big Ten membership. So I think that's the first list that you look at. And so, these are generally large flagship universities, research facilities, because you have to remember, this is not only a sports consortium, this is a research consortium as well. And the Big Ten wants to have schools that are additive to what they're doing. And that was one of the hidden things about Rutgers, when Rutgers came in, is not only they were an AAU member, but they were a gateway to a lot of big, which is located there in the New Jersey area. So I think that when you look at schools, across the country, like North Carolina or Virginia or Georgia Tech or Arizona, as we talked about, or Colorado, Oregon, Washington, that's the kind of the profile that the Big Ten is looking for, because there is a research and academic component that goes beyond just college.
Well, something that you've predicted, Nevada, is we are going to be moving to an NFL type model. I posted just, a geographic map of, where a lot of the major schools are located. Obviously, there's not really a correlation between conferences, and now with USC entering, obviously they're a little bit off the map. Let me shift it over a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about your prediction as to where college football is going to be at in as little as 3 to 5 years in terms of, a potential super league forming.
Well, I think what you're going to have is you're going to have super conferences, and it's going to be like the AFC and the NFC. You're going to have, 22, 24, 26, 28 team conferences that have balanced schedules, that have, home and home, games and opponents. And it's going to be a much more of an NFL regimented, type of setup where you've got semifinals and then a college bowl championship game. It'll be less of a artistic impression and beauty contest and more of a this is how you get to the college bowl, this is how you win the championship type of setup. And it was a huge step, but just another step in a long line towards that ultimate goal of a more regimented college football setup, because the college football teams realize that there's only probably 50 or 60 teams right now that can really compete at the big time level. And it takes resources, it takes coaching staff, it takes facilities, it takes NIL monies. And so this isn't really a 133 team approach anymore. I think it's being kind of ground down to a much smaller number of that, and I think it's going to follow the NFL model. And I think the Big Ten is going to be one of those conferences. Pick a name: AFC, NFC. That's going to be the Big 12. The Big Ten.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. So I feel like the American League and the National League is going to end up being the Big Ten versus the SEC, and then everybody else is just kind of scattered to the wind and maybe compete for the crumbs. But I feel like pretty soon the playoffs are just going to be dominated by two conferences, and the rest of the schools are just going to be kind of fighting for whatever's left over. Because once all these other schools are getting the large amounts of TV revenue, and some of the the perks, like there's a report out that Apple's going to re-engage with the Big Ten on television revenue or television rights, just because of the addition of USC and UCLA. And once Apple gets involved against Fox, then it's just going to be who's got the bigger checkbook and who's more excited about Big Ten football. I mean, there's nothing. It's nothing but good for the Big Ten when you have two absolute giants competing with each other to have the television rights for your product. So it's going to be very fascinating. We actually did have a commitment today, so we'll touch on that real quick. I know that it's been very expansion heavy just because, again, the USC joining the Big Ten is the biggest story in the history of the Big Ten, and I completely agree with you. It is. You take one of the top 5 programs in the entire country, along with Texas, Bama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, maybe outside Michigan, some other ones, but I mean you have one of the top 5 historic programs in the history of college football, and they have joined our conference, so it is going to be a huge day. But we'll touch on real quick. So we got Calvin Simpson Hunt committed. He flipped from Texas Tech today. And you threw on an equal sign for Jermaine Matthews. We're trending in the right way for Caleb Downs. Nevada, what are your thoughts on the level of defensive back recruiting, the type of athletes these two kids are? We're likely going to get Jermaine Matthews today when this airs this afternoon. He's going to commit. But Talk a little bit about, the defensive back recruiting under Tim Walton, who's an NFL guy. He hasn't been in college for a little bit. Now he's really having a nice little run here, picking up some big time DBs.
Yeah, well, Tim Walton's, like you said, he's a rising star in the business. He's tremendous on-field coach, tremendously relatable to these kids. And with Ohio State's recent success, historic success with defensive backs, but the big thing that they've been really selling is you get a chance to go up against the best wide receivers in the country every game. You've got this great wide receiver run that Brian Hartline's on, but that works also when you're recruiting defensive backs because you get to practice against those guys. And Tim Walton's been really making that a centerpiece of his recruiting pitch. And you're seeing guys that are coming that are big timers, that are all they're all long, they all can run, and they're all the types of guys that are first day NFL draft choice types of potential guys. And I think Walton's, as excited as I am about Knowles, Walton's just a tremendous addition to the OSU staff, and I think he's getting started.
Yeah, I mean, he's a former Buckeye. He coached Jalen Ramsey in Jacksonville. Jalen Ramsey famously said it's the best technical coach he's had in his career. So, I mean, Jalen Ramsey's as good of a corner as ever played in the National Football League. He's making, $25 million a year to play corner in the league. He's just an incredible player. And for him to have that kind of praise on our cornerbacks coach is really, it's really a, I don't know what higher praise you could get than when the highest paid corner in the league says you're the best coach in terms of the technical nuances of playing cornerback. So I'll take that all day. He's an Ohio State alumni, which I always love when we have some former players on the staff, just because I think they really get it to a higher degree as opposed to people that didn't play here or didn't, grow up in Ohio or whatever. So it's always nice, it's like a little shot in the arm to let people know what it is to be a Buckeye when you actually were a Buckeye. So I'm excited, man. I mean, we've got, we look like we're doing good with Caleb Downs, doing good with Mateo. And we got some monsters that potentially could be coming on the pike for 2023. And I'm excited, man. We had a huge weekend. Ola Salinen's another guy who's out in Finland right now visiting his family, but it looks like things went well there. Tackett Curtis, who's one of my favorite films I've ever watched. I mean, we look like we're going to have a monster close to the year. And, and we're just getting started. We haven't hit training camp yet. This is a slow time of the year, and it was one of the biggest traffic days in the history of Buckeyes Scoop. So, in closing, Nevada, any final words? I mean, this was a monster day for Buckeye Scoop. It was a monster day for Nevadabuck. You call it a pretty massive shot, and you hit it out of the park. So, do you have anything for your curtain call today? Well, what was a massive day for Buckeye Scoop?
Well, I think that clearly expansion's not done. So for people that are interested in expansion, come to the site, be part of the community, take part of the threads. But I think there's some more expansion stuff coming down that's going to be of interest to a lot of people. So I'll see you on the boards.
That sounds great, my man. So I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Again, guys, I don't know what else to say, but man, we had an incredible day on BuckeyeScoop.com today. Our message board was absolutely on fire. One of the highest traffic days in the history of the site, and it's not even July yet. 4th of July fireworks came early on Buckeye Scoop. Us breaking the USC announcement, along with some huge defensive back commitments. We're going to be live at the commitment ceremony tomorrow, or which will be today, because we're going to upload this tomorrow. But I'm telling you, the largest Ohio State site in existence, the best community that has ever existed under the Ohio State media umbrella, just inside information. We let you guys know what's really going on inside the Woody Hayes, and it really is fun. But if you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like. It's just absolutely huge for people being able to find the video and comment. Who do you want the Big Ten to add next? Is it Notre Dame? Is it Oregon? Is it Colorado? Is it, you got a million, and even write a reason why. Do you like, are you an outdoors guy? Do you want to go to Boulder? Boulder, Colorado has the most beautiful stadium in the country, most scenic view in the country. I would love for people to be able to go out there and for Ohio State fans to make a road trip out there, because it is a gorgeous, gorgeous part of the country. So, but again, thank you so much for tuning in. We do this because of you. We really put a lot of polish in this product because we respect you. We know that we want you guys to have some fun. We want you to learn some stuff, have a good time. We appreciate you, Buckeye Nation. We appreciate you, Scoop family. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a great rest of your day, and go Bucks.